Today I will tell you the story of a new discovery. Hear how love changes. Love is beautiful, love is strong. Let love come in everyone's life.
My wife, 35, was starting to distance herself from me, 39, after 10 years of marriage. She didn't want kids, and even though I didn't for a while, my mind was changing. I made the mistake of bringing this up after she started distancing herself as something that might bring us closer together. It did not. All it did was make it so she didn't sleep with me. Perfect. So she'd been going to an exercise dance class that started around 2017. She'd get up, go to work, stop home for a light dinner, an outfit, change, then go dancing. I went with her a handful of times when she first started, but I wasn't into dancing like that. I felt like a sweaty moron, not like the others in the class, glittery dancers filled with the power of magic. When I did go a few times, there were only women. So my wife found an app and dance class. Never crossed my mind. Why? Didn't know was that they continued dancing in the parks and sometimes a crowd would swarm around them to watch. In this crowd was a P, so I wouldn't find that out until my wife came home one day. She locked herself in the bathroom with her phone and I knocked, scaring the crap out of her. She yelled at me and started hurrying to finish up. But I'm sure she was only finishing her texting conversation with AP for a while. We were supposed to have a popcorn movie date and she couldn't be texting him constantly for that. Then she dropped her phone in the toilet. She obviously blamed me, even though it was a minute after I scared her. She put her phone in rice and waited anxiously by its side. I told her it wasn't a person on life support and she could let it go. This made her mad, but she did let it go for a while. She fell asleep watching the movie, which I expected because it was late and we both had work the next day. I noticed her phone came on by itself in the bowl of rice. Maybe it was fate telling me to check it. I guessed her passcode. After a few tries, and it was a gold mine of information while she locked herself in the bathroom before her movie night, she took pictures of herself and sent them to AP. His number was programmed as a disguise. He sent her pictures of himself, too, and added that he couldn't wait to feel her toned body again. In my wife's traveling app, I found a recent input was to an address in a development 20 minutes from her house. She went there after the park where I didn't know she was dancing. The app told me she visited this address 6 times in the past month. My blood was boiling. I could barely hold onto her phone, but I knew that before she woke up, I had to get the evidence to my phone. Once I did, I dumped water on her to wake her up. She gasped and freaked out, but got really quiet after she saw I was holding her and marked phone with app's messages. I threw her phone on the ground and it splintered into 1,000 pieces. She screamed and cried, overwhelmed with the way she was caught, woken up and humiliated. I told her what she was feeling was just the beginning. I went upstairs and started throwing her things off the balcony to be thrown outside. She was crying so hard she couldn't breathe and she barely verbalized a request for forgiveness. But I wasn't slowing down. She didn't have a phone anymore, so all she could do was watch and cry. She asked if she could use my phone to call someone, and I just laughed. I told her to use the neighbor's phone, so she did. I would find out later from the neighbors that she called AP first, meaning she memorized his number. But when he heard that she needed a place to live and had a bunch of stuff that needed to be moved, he hung up. I still find that funny to this day. Just like that, he was done with her forever. Their relationship meant nothing because he didn't have to give her anything besides having sex. The next person, my broken-hearted, soon-to-be ex called, was her sister. Her parents lived out of state, so she didn't expect them to be able to help. After hearing what she'd done, her sister only agreed to help her get to their parents' house because she refused to live with her, knowing how despicable she turned out to be. I found out that before her sister, directly along with apologies on behalf of her sister, they loaded up her pickup truck so that there was a very large, slightly precarious load in the back. I wondered if it was legal to drive that way, but it was the last I ever heard about my wife. Our divorce was made final remotely without objections. I couldn't believe that after 10 years of marriage, I was a bachelor. It felt weird at first, but I think human nature caught on and I was able to find happiness. I was able to go fishing or golfing whenever I wanted and realize how much money I saved without a wife. She did eventually reach out saying that her entire family hated her and she had no one. I did not respond. I didn't want to remember the pain she caused me and there was no benefit to us talking at all. What doesn't kill you does make you stronger. And you don't have to feel lonely as long as you enjoy your own company. Cop. I am so sorry. Your wife started an affair with another man. Making a lifelong commitment to someone is a serious thing. But it seems like she never planned on resisting temptation. After showing off in the park, she felt like she could get away with cheating. I am so glad you noticed her odd behavior and took the opportunity to check her phone. Let this be a lesson to all married or committed couples. Your vows aren't just until someone else hits on you or wants to take you to their bed. They are forever. Which means you should be proud you're married or taken. You found the person that understands you the most in life, someone you could almost love more than yourself. Thank you for sharing this story. It's a wonderful lesson for us all to hear. And I'm proud of you for where you're at in life and the optimism you feel. Now let's get into our second story for today. My wife, 27, started struggling with depression 4 years into her marriage. We were so young, practically newlyweds and trying to conceive. Problem was, she kept having miscarriages. All she wanted was to be a mom. So it was extremely disappointing to her. After too many failed attempts, she gave up. She got approval for her insurance for a hysterectomy. I told her we can always work towards the goal of adoption. Our Ruth wasn't quite built, but that happens after years of hard work. I told her we get a bigger place and save up money for a future child. She seemed okay with this idea, but it didn't solve the problem. There wasn't an immediate fix for this kind of thing. Only patience and willingness to go with the flow would get us by. Well, my wife was working in the offices of a big-name bank, and after years of service, she met AP, a super wealthy man who was in charge of half the company or something. He was married to for 20 years. But that doesn't matter when you're rich. So when he met my wife, I imagine he was struck by her young beauty, and she was struck by his enormous wealth. My wife started to go missing. Literally. She'd stay out all night telling me she was out celebrating with coworkers, making friends or #living. I asked if I could join her, but she said it was for employees only. I didn't get it, but now I know it didn't sit right with me because she was like old me. Didn't want to believe my wife would lie, even though sometimes she'd go 48 hours without returning home. She told me she made a close woman friend that let her shower at her house and party all night. It sounded like a great time, and I was glad my wife wasn't depressed anymore. I was glad when she was home sleeping next to me. But when it became less and less frequent, I knew I had to do something sneaky. I hired a PI to watch and follow my wife. I couldn't since we only had one car, and I couldn't stop working with my uncle at his construction project. Before I knew it, a week went by and the PI presented me with his findings. My wife left work with her super rich ape. They got in his Porsche and drove to a glamorous hotel where the PI was able to snap a picture of them entering a hotel room with his hand on the small of my wife's back. There are pictures of them leaving the hotel and traveling to work together the next morning. Another night they leave, work for a club and dance together. If you can call that dancing. They went to 3 different high-end hotels and party spots that week, probably spending about half the money it would take to adopt a child. I hated her instantly. I hated my wife. She didn't even look the same in the pictures. I wondered if he was giving her money on top of this sickening luxury. I wondered if she knew how much money he spent and if that made her believe she could adopt a child with him. The more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. So that's when I decided she must have been fabulous. My wife wasn't thinking she was having expensive fun with AP, but if she thought this was okay or leading her any closer to adopting a child, she was out of her mind. She wasn't the person I married anymore. I cried for a while for the first time in years. Everything I thought we would accomplish together through time and hard work was gone. She didn't want me to be her life partner, contrary to the vows she took, letting my anger fuel me. I posted the pictures online. I even gave the pictures to a news channel that used it for one of their scandalous pieces. It seemed like everyone in the state freaked out about this, but no one freaked out so much as my wife and AP. They both deserved the panic and shock they felt. My wife's family stopped responding to her or communicating at all, so she started texting me and leaving voicemails daily. She was always upset. Sometimes it was anger towards me, and other times it was overwhelming guilt for her behavior. She admitted she was disgusted and pathetic for cheating on me and letting AP spend so much time and money on her. Sometimes she thought he might fund the cost of her adopting a child if he grew to love her deeply. Other times she just chalked up her actions to be something she deserved to forget about the helplessness she felt. AP hadn't spoken to her since his wife filed for divorce. He had children with her, so be trying to save his marriage. It didn't work. He was forced to hand over half his fortune and future fortune to his ex and children. I felt like he should give me a certain amount of money, too, so I filed to sue him in court. I can't talk about that, but regardless, from the moment I saw the pictures of my wife with him, my heart started cutting ties. I didn't want her explanation, and I didn't even want to see her again. But when I had to, it only made me more certain I did the right thing. I hope everyone reading this knows there's no excuse for cheating on your spouse or significant other. A divorce would have been a welcome alternative since my wife didn't have the patience to work with me towards her goals. Your wife probably thought she could get away with cheating on you, and that would have worked out better for her than giving up her new marriage and home. She wanted a family, but she tried to take a shortcut by sleeping with a wealthy man in the hopes he'd fund her dream. Infidelity doesn't make dreams come true. It only causes nightmares and destroys lives. She didn't get any closer with having a child, and now she'll have to figure out where she belongs before becoming a mother. I'm pretty sure that anyone with common sense would take back this massive mistake if given the chance. But unfortunately, there are no do-overs. Let this be a lesson to all that you must have common sense and think through your choices beforehand, because afterward there are no take-backs. I'm proud of you. You hired a PI without telling your wife and had the strength and willpower to keep working like normal. You were a dependable and wise man who will have no trouble at all finding a new spouse. Whenever you're ready. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.